administration's Department of Commerce recently announced an interim final rule that prohibits civilians in dozens of countries from lawfully purchasing firearms and ammunition from American companies. Ryan Walker is Executive Vice President of Heritage Action, joining me now with more. Ryan, thanks for coming back on.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so I always get mad when I hear about anybody trying to stop anybody else from buying guns unless they're a felon, unless they're a criminal. I think any of these restrictions on people purchasing firearms amount to disarming people who may at some point become victims of crime where that gun could have saved their life.
That's absolutely right. This rule would, as you said, ban dozens of countries from lawfully purchasing American made and manufactured firearms and ammunition. This is an assault on not just the Second Amendment and the lawful purchases of firearms, but this is an assault on the manufacturing base and the core that provides those means, those arms, that ammunition to individuals around the world who, again, are lawfully purchasing them.
So what exactly gives the Department of Commerce the right to take this action?
Well, this is a symptom of the Biden administration that I think is reading the writing on the wall, and they know that their time is coming to a quick end. And so they're taking the playbook of President Obama and issuing rule after regulation so that the American people have to continue living under their dictates even after they're out of office. So this is a ploy to again go after the gun industry, gun manufacturing in the United States, the Second Amendment, and again, lawful purchasing of firearms around the world.
You know what's interesting about you saying that, Ryan, and I'm so glad you said that because we've seen this in other areas. The rulemaking around Title IX, the promotion of transgenderism in schools, that rulemaking would exist beyond the Biden administration and would be difficult to unwind because the bureaucracy supports the left. Also, the actions that have been taken to sign a 10-year agreement with Ukraine to fund their war. We don't even know if it'll be going on for 10 years, but that would hamstring an incoming president. A lot of the things, I think my mind is now spooling up a bunch of different things that Biden has taken, actions he's taken over the past few months that point to exactly what you said.
That's absolutely right. Title IX, student loan forgiveness, you name it, this administration is trying to hamstring the next administration. And I think that's because they know the political realities of who that will be. And so these actions, they follow on an action from this administration at the ATF, which labels individuals who transfer a firearm or two in a given year are now professional firearms dealers and have to go through the bureaucratic red tape necessary to be able to do what they're doing. This is, again, an assault on Americans who are trying to exercise their rights. And it's an attack on the manufacturing base. This is a long-term ploy by the Democrats to do away with the Second Amendment.
So how would it work after this? Because oftentimes when, we have a segment like this where you and I talk about what could happen, it would, be catastrophic for gun sales in America. It's an attempt to end the Second Amendment. The first thing I hear in my DMs is people sending me a note, your it's a catastrophe. So you're making it into a catastrophe again. You're basically saying, doom and gloom, woe is me, poor gun owners. I don't feel poor at all. I don't feel woe is me at all. But I do think it's okay to sound the alarm bells when we see them taking actions that hurt us. What could this develop into if it's allowed to stand?
Well, here's the thing. The people have the opportunity to weigh in. Because this administration didn't go through Congress and they didn't pass a law and their representatives were not able to weigh in, they have to go through a rulemaking process. And so we at Heritage Action are allowing or helping, facilitating people who want to weigh in on this rule in opposition to it to submit a comment to regulations.gov. You can visit heritageaction.com or text 2A to 51776, and you will have the option within 3 clicks of your mouse or your thumb to submit a comment and have your voice heard. And the federal law requires that these agencies and the administration review these comments, respond to them, and take them into consideration on final passage of the rule. So there is hopefully a scenario where the American people weigh in with such numbers and with such anger that the administration has to pull back.
So the anger at the rulemaking has been a potent tool in the past. There have been other rules that have been proposed, and Americans go in and make public comment, and they realize, oh my goodness, they're paying attention to this. We'd better shelve it for later, Ryan. They don't ever get rid of their horrible ideas, but they do shelve them. And sometimes the shelving, it can last quite a while because of the strength of the backlash. So the key here is for people to plug into Heritage and actually participate in the public comment process to eliminate these bureaucrats' desire to carry this out.
That's absolutely right. This administration is allowing, to your point, bureaucrats to run all of the programs. I think that we are all under the understanding that President Biden may not be making all of the decisions in the White House. So this action that people, individuals, can take, your viewers can take, can push back on the administration and put these bureaucrats in their place.
And then after that, we can elect a president who would strengthen our Second Amendment rights because I think the big misnomer here is we see so much amplification on individual cases of violence. We do not see amplification on defensive gun use, on gun ownership, on the fact that gun owners are the most law abiding segment of society, and that people in neighborhoods that are known to be full of gun owners experience less crime because criminals don't want to encounter an armed and self sufficient victim. They want to encounter someone who is disarmed, who is not self aware, who has no idea of what their sexual awareness is, no idea of how to respond if they're attacked, because those make the easiest prey.
That's exactly right. And this administration is demonizing those lawful gun owners. They use the justification that, in theory, these guns could be used in international crime, but the statistics don't play out and match the administration's narrative. Less than 1% of firearm sales abroad are used in any type of crime. So this administration is, again, is demonizing those gun owners who create safe environments for themselves and their neighbors.
Ryan, I have to wonder, why don't the organized leftists who hate the guns that are brought into America by the drug cartels, the ones who control our southern border? Why aren't they concerned about those guns?
Well, I think that's a very good point. They seemingly have no interest or concern around the people coming into the United States, members of the Chinese Communist Party, known terrorists, people from every country that you can imagine. To your point, firearms, drugs, sex trafficking, human trafficking is occurring at the border, and Democrats are paying no attention to that. If anything, this administration is exacerbating it. Yesterday, or this morning, I'm sorry, President Biden announced a new amnesty plan where he's going to allow over 1 million people who have married U.S. citizens to remain in the country, despite the fact that they entered illegally.
Right. So all you have to do is find someone in America to marry and then wait for a Democrat to become the president, and you can get legal status out of that. And yet another end run around our already overtaxed and overburdened immigration system. So again, something that would hamstring a future president, because a future president who was deporting, people who are in the country illegally would then have these paroled in place individuals in a special category that might be untouchable according to the Supreme Court.
That's right. And if you remember the debates around DACA and the Trump era policy of uh, deporting and making sure that these individuals aren't coming in, he was lambasted for not caring about the youth, despite the fact that many of these individuals are now in their 30s. And there were months-long news coverage of separating children from their parents at the border. So the left will demonize any program like this. I think that we should expect it if President Trump comes into office and begins deportation efforts, that we will hear the emotional appeal to the American people that we are somehow doing wrong by these folks.
Well, Ryan, I think it's going to fall on deaf ears because polling now shows that for the first time in the modern era, a majority, over 60%, and in one poll it showed 67% of Americans now support deporting anyone who's here illegally, meaning everyone who's here illegally. We've never seen numbers like that before. That's thanks to the Democrats. I don't think their emotional appeals are going to work this go round, but we'll see. As always, heritage.org and heritageaction.org to find out more about how you can get involved with this wonderful organization. Executive Vice President of Heritage Action, Ryan Walker, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. And McDonald's and other fast food giants are preparing for a future where an AI takes your order. Coming up next on Salem News Channel.